networks. I think today's session is, we've heard lots and lots of stories about what AI can do, cannot do. I think it's really important for us to set the stage on what's really possible today, right? What's AI being used for today, both in terms of offense and defense. And we'll also talk about what it cannot do, right? What it's purely is not good at doing, right? So yeah, feel free to if you have any questions, something doesn't make sense, feel free to let me know. So before we get started, when I was told that I need to create this deck, I created this content and I submitted this to Charlie or ChatGPT's image creator, and I asked it to summarize this deck, and that's what it came with. And I don't know what it means, but so we'll talk about whether that makes sense or not. Okay. So first thing, right? So we've all been through the AI hype after ChatGPT, right? So we heard stories about it could replace all of us. You don't know. Humans need not do anything. We had that disillusionment phase. Now we have much more realistic phase, hopefully, right? So just to test it out, right? So before we get into AI, there's lots and lots of things out there, but the ones that are really generating a lot of buzz is Gen AI, which we all know, right? The chat GPTs, the LLMs, those models. You have supervised machine learning, there's unsupervised machine learning, and the next buzzword is agentic AI platforms. If you've heard of this, or I'm sure you'll hear more about this, right? So there's actually a place for each one of these. They're all good at doing certain things. We'll look at a few examples of how it is used specifically in the field of cybersecurity. Obviously, there are other use cases too. But since we have so many things, I just wanted to see how good it has become, right, since the time it was originally launched. So this is about agentic stuff. But what I did was I had a let's say not so good photo, and I asked all the models, can you help me clean up this photo, right? So what I did was I gave them a photo and I said, remove all the background shadows and brighten the overall photo and clean up the background, right? So that's it's a simple task, and this is what it came up with. As much as I'd like to claim this is me, I mean, and I got fed up of it, and I said, hey, this is not my image. You're giving me some random image, blah blah blah. And it said, no, I understand you now. I'm gonna help you with it, and this is what it came up with. So, and the reason I'm showing this is not to, say bad things about it. We just need to realize that there are certain limitations with AI as it stands today, and that's really important for us to understand before we talk about what is it being used for and what it cannot be used for as it stands, right? And then another experiment I'd like to do a lot of the times, and especially in our company, a lot of our security researchers spend a lot of time on this. Is we seem to hear all these news about we have the first AI software engineer, we have this and that. So we're curious, okay, if we cannot get it to work or do simple tasks, let's just see what threat actors are using it for. So when you go on these forums that you shouldn't be going on, you'll see all these types of things, right? So you'll have ransomware as a service, right? So you have tools that are now being sold as subscription services, like any SaaS service. So you'll get all these kinds of stuff. But then, we all heard about Worm GPT, which was in the news last year. Again, there's so many things around what it could do, how it could attack stuff. But then if you really ask the people who've used it, this is what they say, right? They say it's a scam, right? So there are some issues with it. So, finally, when you see these things, it doesn't do things for you, it doesn't do things for the bad actors. This is kind of what you would feel like, it's not there, right? But jokes aside, right? So what we did do is, so I just go back here. There are certain things that threat actors are using the state-of-the-art models for, right? Not just the LLMs, but there are other areas of AI that's obviously come leaps and bounds. So some of the key areas that we see that they use these tools for is phishing attacks, right? It is so simple now to create an entire chain of phishing attacks and target end users, right? So that's something that they use for. Obviously, we've all seen the deep fake synthetic media stuff. I think we all saw the news where somebody in Hong Kong was made to transfer 250 million or 25 million because they created a deep fake of their CEO asking them to do the transfer, right? So That's kind of the sophistication that you're seeing about. Again, the intention is not to scare people into buying security tools. It's just that the first step is awareness, right? If you're not, I mean, this is like the classic scammers that would target senior citizens, right? I mean, they were not aware of it. So, it's important we bring this awareness. It is possible to use it for these kinds of stuff. AI-driven malware, this is an area that we've seen explode, in the last couple of years, because it's the simplicity at which you can create these, ever-changing, evolving malware threats, right? I mean, previously it would really take a genius, right, or a teenage hacker in his mom's basement to do this stuff. Now, anybody who can communicate well enough or can give the right prompts can get these type of attacks, and this is why we see all these types of services or threats being sold as SaaS services within Underground, right? And then you also have things like data poisoning. So they're going after supply chain, right? So they know how to poison these models that are supposed to protect you from these threats. So there's those areas. And you also have enhanced social engineering, right? I mean, this is an area I think we all need to think about seriously, because the humans tend to be the weak link. Even if you have the best tools, there was a story where I think that somebody said that, we were doing some pen test something, and they were trying to harden all their systems, but they forgot about their people. And all that the pen tester needed to do was drop a bunch of USB drives in the parking lot with saying some home video or something like that. And somebody, lo and behold, somebody put it in, and they were able to prove that, right? So it's just to give you a sense that this social engineering, it takes so many forms, and it's so easy these days, right? Um, so what do we do against this, right? So there has to be some solution, right? Or we gotta have some defense to it. So the first thing we have to do, obviously, is if somebody's using AI to attack you, you're gonna leverage the same to defend yourself, right? And this is where you talk about the different tools that are there. Obviously, they can't do everything, but there are certain limitations. But there are things that they can really do, and we'll see some examples as to where we personally use that to protect and make ourselves better, right? The second area is obviously employee training, right? This is the most important area, right? You could have the best state-of-the-art tools, but if your humans are not equally aware and prepared, then it doesn't really matter, because they tend to be the ones who compromise, right? Whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, that happens, right? And lastly, it's about collaboration, right? So this shouldn't be proprietary knowledge. This shouldn't be something that only you learn from it. It's, you gotta put the word out, share it, learn from others' mistakes, because again, we can't commit all the mistakes to learn from it. It's too expensive, right? So a single move costs companies millions and shut them down for days, right? So it just doesn't work, right? So just this is just talking about high level stuff. But we're not here yet, right? I mean, this is a question, right? Are we here? No, absolutely not. But we are somewhere, right? And what's that? So if you look at it, we got to debug some of the myths, right? So when it comes to AI and security, again, it's a buzzword. Obviously, we know execs love to talk about it. You get to attach AI powered, right? Like if you remember the dot-com bubble, everybody was an internet company. Now everybody's an AI company. All you got to do is change your domain to .ai and boom, right? You're AI, right? That's kind of what's happening. So the first thing we always hear is it can solve all security problems. We know in reality it doesn't. The way to look at AI is think of what computers did to us, 3, 4, 5 decades ago, right? So again, even then there was a fear that computers were going to replace humans. That didn't really happen. Now we don't know if AI does it or not. We'll see, but at least where it stands, we're at a stage where AI is only going to help us enhance what we are doing, right? It'll take away sort of the boring stuff, the grunt work that nobody likes to do, and let us do things that we enjoy doing. The second thing that we hear about AI is they're impenetrable and invulnerable. We know in reality that's not the case. Supply chain attacks is a big thing. Prompt engineering. There's so many things, right? So this is a whole area in itself. And then finally, it talk about AI replacing human intervention. Again, we are not there yet, right? And we've seen this as much as we all want it. I don't think we are there yet. It's more about complementing humans, right? It's about letting humans use their creativity and skill set for things that we are good at, and offloading all of the boring stuff to AI, right? And that's really what we see the ideal way, at least for now, right? So things could evolve. So let's talk about what AI is really good at. So if you talk about generative AI, this is an example of how we use it at Cato, but I'm sure there are other companies who use this as well. So if you look at generative AI, at the end of the day, it's think of it as somebody who's memorized stuff and they can express it in human readable format, right? So what they're really good at is if you give them a complicated uh, story, right? They can give you a really good textual summary. So it will basically tell you exactly what this was all about. So it'll give you that precise and concise information, right? This is where generative AI shines, right? So it is what it was supposed to be doing, and that this is an area we use it, right? So especially with our XDR platform, this is something that saves us a lot of time, right? Because again, one of the issues is everybody has the best tools, but it's a fatigue alert, right? You just don't have infinite amount of time to go through everything. This is where Gen AI can actually pick out stuff that really needs your attention. So this summary saves you a whole lot of time, right? The other area we can look at is if you look at unsupervised machine learning models, they're really good at finding patterns in massive amounts of data, right? Again, unlabeled data. Again, there are other use cases for this, in autonomous driving and things like that. Purely from a security standpoint, same thing. Where humans cannot find these patterns, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. You have so much log, so much data, so many things happening at once. But if you use this best unsupervised machine learning models, they're very good at finding a pattern for you, right? They'll create an end-to-end story for you, which a human eye, it was impossible for us to figure out, right? So this is again an area that we actively use it for. You can see what it does. And when it comes to supervised machine learning models, they're good at predictions, right? So they can look at stuff and predict what could be happening. Again, this is an area that we see here. Again, we've all seen the all types of threat prevention solutions in the past, right? The firewalls, the IPSs, the anti-malware, on all that stuff. But again, when you use AI, it'll make it much more efficient, right? You're much more um, guaranteed to get better outcomes. Now, the key with all of this is if you put garbage in, you'll get garbage out. So one of the key areas that you need to think about is the data that you train the models with. I mean, typically you don't start from scratch, right? You use a pre-trained model on certain things, but then you've got to fine tune it based off of your use case, your data, right? But there, what differentiates really great companies and solutions from, average companies is the quality data, right? That is what separates it, and that's the end result. And then the near future, what everybody's talking about agentic AI is reasoning, right? So because today, if you give a model certain tasks, they're okay with reasoning, but they're not there yet. So this is kind of what, again, it's a prediction. We don't know if it happens or not. But the whole idea here is you would have platforms that can reason, create their own logic, and then figure out all the integrations that they need, all the actions, steps that they need to take better than what they are doing today, right? So, we do have some aspects of this. We'll talk about it with Cato's standpoint. But, again, this is too early, right, to talk about stuff. Um, so, but there's more, right? So again, from a Cato standpoint, we actually have lots more. I just gave you some snapshots. So just to give you a sense, these are all the different areas that we use machine learning, AI, all kinds of things. Right? Again, generative AI, random forests, embedding. So there's so many areas here. But the key here is just to give you a snapshot. If you just take the real-time threat prevention area in itself, you can see there's lots and lots of areas, right? Things like DGA, right, or cyber squatting, OS detection. There's lots and lots of areas where we use machine learning models as it stands today, right? So this is just on the, where's the threat prevention piece? This somewhere here, right? So just one aspect of it, right? So that's just giving you stuff. So similarly, there are lots and lots of areas. We obviously won't go through all of it, but we'll give you some examples as to what we use this for. Okay. Cool. So about Cato, if you've not heard about Cato Networks, we were founded by Shlomo Kramer. He has built two other companies previously. If you've heard of Checkpoint, if you've heard of Imperva, those were his previous two companies. And he was the first investor in Palo Alto Networks. So he's had that cybersecurity DNA in him. This is his third iteration. Cato, as it stands today, we have more than 1,400 employees, I think. We're soon to be public company. That's the goal here, right? So I won't go through all of this stuff. But in terms of where we are, we were named as a leader in the SASE quadrant. So if you guys are familiar with SASE, that's an area that we've been SASE from day one. And then basically what separates us out from the rest of the industry that we'd like to believe is the fact that with Cato, you can get rid of all of these different point solutions, right? Whether it's SD-WAN, global backbone, your on-prem legacy firewalls, cloud security solutions, remote access, zero trust. All of this is replaceable with Cato because it's a single platform delivered as a service to you, right? In terms of why this makes sense or what's the benefit here is essentially you can see if you take all these different areas, whether it's networking, whether it's security, whether it's cloud, mobile, you'll obviously have all these different point solutions. Best of breed, right? They could be good at doing their stuff, but then again, they're all different solutions, different code bases, talking their own languages, and there's no shared context. There's no concept of shared context. And then obviously you got to manage it, or somebody has to manage it. There's a lot of overhead cost associated with it. From a Cato standpoint, we replace all of this with a single platform delivered as a service. So that makes a whole lot of difference, right? In terms of the architecture itself, just at a high level, you can see here from a Cato standpoint, you can connect all of your physical sites, your cloud locations, your remote users, any application, SaaS, on-prem, doesn't really matter. Everything is going to be getting the same optimization, the full next-gen security. So from your standpoint, you just, when you define a rule, it's applied everywhere, right? It's a global platform. And at the end of the day, all of this feeds into our really well-trained models. So the data that we generate from this is what goes into that. And because there is shared context and also correlated data that's available, the models put out really better outputs compared to other, just doing it by yourself, right? So just to give you an example, I think we spoke about some of the examples earlier on. But here, if you take a look at it, we've heard the term AI-powered XDR, and why is it even needed, right? So we've had XDR for a while. Again, first of all, you need XDR because you could have all the best real-time protection tools. But with the advent of all these state-of-the-art models, threat actors know how to evade every single tool by itself. So it's never sufficient to say that alone is enough. You gotta have defense in that, right? We all know that. So and then obviously, if you have disparate systems, humans will miss important alerts, right? It's just impossible to keep a track of it. And so it's very hard to build a cohesive story, right, across different sources. So again, Gartner says the same thing, right? So you can skip this, but essentially, this is kind of what it looks like today if you have your different solutions, right? So you will have different firewalls, different cloud solutions, remote solutions. You then have all these different integrations, either using the SIEM, SOAR, all kinds of different tools. You're now trying to create a story, create a correlation by yourself. Obviously, they do a good job, but there are some inherent gaps with it, right? So you'll miss stuff. There's going to be false positives. Again, they're all talking different languages. It doesn't really matter. So again, it's about lower data quality, which means the models don't do as well as they potentially could. You'll miss out stuff. So the advantage Cato obviously has is the fact that all of your traffic's going through Cato. We can extract really rich context metadata from each and every single flow. And when we feed this data into these models, you don't need any kind of integration because the data comes correlated. It's already normalized, so it's much easier for the models to process them and throw out better outputs. You also have detection capabilities, remediation, investigation. All of this is readily available with Cato. So just one last thing, and we'll wrap up for any questions you have. So the net result of having something like this, having that shared context, and doing this is essentially you can remediate stuff much quicker, right? So you can isolate, let's say, an infected host in less than a minute because you can have the tool automatically do it for you, right? Because it has the context. You don't need humans in the loop to a good degree, right? You can do stuff on the endpoint. You can lock it even without disconnecting something. You can again scan for stuff within there, right? So things that would take hours or maybe even days for humans and other tools to do, we can do it much quicker because that context is ready for us, right? So yeah, that's all. Thank you. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
What does Cato stand for?
If you've seen Pink Panther, Inspector Clouseau's sidekick or something.
The Green Hornets.
Yeah, no.
He's the one that would beat him up when he would Pink Panther would come home, huh?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I had seen that. I didn't know that too, but yeah. There's
I think that's funny. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.